Over 1 million teachers use iExcel in their classrooms every day for one reason. They love it. Why? iExcel is where the magic happens. With just one platform, teachers can personalize learning for every student. iExcel gives teachers all the tools they need to enhance and differentiate instruction without adding work to their plates. Plus, iExcel has decades of expertise and has proven to be effective. Studies on more than 70,000 schools across nearly 50 states show that those who use iExcel outperform others on state tests. Ready to bring the magic to your school? Visit iexcel.com/PM to learn more.
You're listening to Monday Matters, a Principal Matters podcast production.
Hi, friends. This is Will Parker back with my co-host, Dr. Jen Schwanke, for another Monday Matters. Jen, you're going to know today's guests. We don't normally bring guests into Monday Matters, but this month I've been doing so because so many of the groups that I've been wrapping up the year with gave me the privilege of recording some conversations. And you and I have both been to the Archdiocese of Louisville's Catholic schools to do PD with their leaders. And I'm just excited to introduce some of those principles to this audience. Trevor Timmerberg is going to be in that audience. And you and I both know their superintendent, Amy Knoll. So if she's listening, Amy, thank you for your wonderful support. Jen, it's almost, by the time this recording comes out, we're there into May. How are things in Dublin?
They're good.
You guys wrapping up?
Yeah, they're good. I think we had talked offline about how everybody's in a different schedule. So there's going to be people listening to this rolling their eyes because they still have 4 long weeks to go.
Yes.
And some people are done by the time this airs. So we're a little bit all over the place. But yeah, things here are good. Lots of celebrations, lots of academic culmination events going on, lots of good stuff.
Well, because we're going to transition to a Monday Matters, I just want to say on the front, since we won't talk on the back, that groups like this, the Mastermind, or groups like the ones that Jen leads, because Jen travels all over the U.S. during the school year and sometimes in the summer, leading teams and retreats and leadership development and professional development. So if you're interested in that kind of PD, Jen, how can our listeners connect with you and find out more?
Absolutely. They can find me at jenschwanke.com. There's a contact form there, and they can also follow my newsletter there. And Will, I think you've got a fantastic website too. They can find you.
Well, you can find all my information and services and today's notes at williamdparker.com. And if you listen to the end of today's show and you want to connect with any of these guests, I'm going to put all their contact information in the show notes too. But Jen, thank you for connecting. And Principal Matters listeners, we know you're going to enjoy today's show. Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week we bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school leadership. And this week, I'm talking to a mastermind group from the Archdiocese of Catholic Schools in Louisville, Kentucky. And we're recording this right around the Kentucky Derby. So I'm going to call this my Derby Mastermind. I would like to introduce you to my friends today because we have been meeting together regularly all school year long, and I asked them permission today to share their experiences with Principal Matters listeners. And so I'm going to just go quickly around the room and ask each person to introduce themselves, and I'll start with Dr. Trevor Timmerberg.
Hey, well, Trevor Timmerberg. I'm the assistant superintendent here for Archdiocese of Louisville.
Welcome, Trevor. Shelley?
Hi, I am Shelley Pence from Holy Cross High School here in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm the principal.
Good morning, Shelley. Hi, Chastity.
Hi, I am Chastity Lobbers. I am the assistant principal at Bethlehem High School in Bardstown, Kentucky.
Jessica?
Hello, I'm Jessica Young. I'm the principal of St. Agnes School in Louisville, Kentucky.
And Dr. Karen Loper.
Hi, I'm Dr. Karen Loper. I'm the principal at St. Edward's School in Louisville, Kentucky.
I have had the delight of getting to meet with these leaders twice a month this entire school year. And if Principal Matters listeners, if you've heard me talk to masterminds before, you know that these groups are set up in discussion groups where we talk about content, but also conversations directly around practice. We also each time invite a leader into a hot seat discussion. and we won't be recording that part today. And then we usually end with some self-reflection time as well. But I wanted to focus in today's conversation around how the collective conversations we've been having together, the coaching and the mentoring that we've done together has developed your leadership. What ways has this kind of collective collaboration helped you grow? And so I'm just going to throw that question out. And I don't care who goes first, but how has our collective coaching and mentorship developed your leadership?
One specific piece that sticks out to me, and I have my post-it note of questions. Earlier this school year, you had shared 7 questions with us to really deepen the conversation to find really what it is if you're experiencing a challenge that is the problem. And I really have been able to use those questions not only with teachers, but even sometimes in difficult conversations with parents. And I've really noticed an increased focus in just why we are meeting and what our purpose is and how I can help. So that's been very beneficial to me.
Jessica, I'm smiling because I have those same exact 7 questions sitting here on my desk. And so for anyone that wants to reference those 7 questions, Michael Bungay Stanier has a book called The Coaching Habit. And those questions have just become such a great way to have conversations. And they include questions like what's on your mind? What else is on your mind? What's the real challenge here for you? What do you want? How can I help? If you're saying yes to this, what are you going to say no to? What was most useful to you? So thank you, Jessica. What a practical way to take that and then apply it to the sometimes hard conversations that we're having with people too. Others, how has our collective mentorship and coaching developed you as leaders?
I would say the learning how to listen first. That's something that I think I've learned from you, Will, and from our cohort as we worked through this year. But I wasn't the best at listening first. I felt like I was listening first, but once we worked through that here, I kind of learned I wasn't really doing that as well. And so just being able to listen to the problem and not jumping to try to fix it quickly. I think that that's a way that I have grown a lot over the course of this program that we've been in.
Mm, thanks for saying that, Chastity. Um, yeah, I love that Stephen Covey quote, seek to understand before being understood. And so learning how to deeply listen is such an important lesson. Trevor?
Yeah, sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. One of the things that I think is reflective in both the 2 examples so far is the first step of humility from the leaders in this group. And I think that's also reflective within our team of leaders throughout the diocese. But another common theme was also the reflective piece. So I think a lot of times as leaders, people come to us to solve the problem, to put out the fire. And we have this kind of firefighter mentality where we want to do that and it helps save the day. It protects people. It's good. It is good work that we are doing. And also, I think one of the benefits of working through some more challenging things with the hot seat, reflective exercises and the informational things that we receive here is how do we help, as Jessica and Chastity were saying, how do we get to the root of where this is coming from? Not just where we see smoke from the fire that we're trying to put out, but where did it originate so that we can actually address the real issue versus just the symptoms of it. And so a lot of people that call our office is when they're trying to say, can I do this? And it's interpretation of policy. One of the things that I have learned, and I think benefits our leaders, is before we even answer the question, help us understand together how we got there. And so walking through that kind of reflective exercise of asking questions from this third party objective, I think similar to the hot seat model, helps leaders see the problem from different angles and the progression of their thoughts throughout, which allows them really to be guided towards their resolution. And it's not about getting an answer from me or our office or even from this cohort. It's they will walk through the reflective exercise in order to understand it from a different perspective and different layers so that they can actually apply what they know and what the positive resolution is for that scenario, that situation, those people, or whomever.
Man, Trevor, so many things you just said there. You guys know me, I'm a repeater. So, humility to ask for other people's input, the um, space to reflect together deeply enough to go beyond just the tell me how to solve this problem to the let me examine the root issues that might be why this problem exists so that when I solve it, I have a deeper understanding of how I might deal with this next time too. And so I love that complexity that you're describing because, and I'm saying this to listeners too, not just you guys as a group, because I think you know this, your work is hard and it requires a lot of wisdom to be able to know when to apply the right solution in the right situation. And so that reflective process gives you space for a wise application. Karen, you had some comments too.
I did. I think that, as many people know, leadership is extremely complicated. It's difficult. It's hard. And one of the things that I value the most, um, of our cohort, of our group, is just that validation that you are running into situations that someone else has also had. People have input or suggestions for how to solve things that give you a different perspective. I think that the hot seat situations, anytime I've been in the hot seat, anytime other people have been, it's validating to know that leadership is difficult and it is hard, but that you have really good people around you to help you work through those things. And I just value that relationship.
I'm so glad you said that, Karen, because isolation, my friend Danny Bauer likes to say, isolation is the enemy of excellence. And it's so true. So often it's easy to feel like you're the only one that faces the thing you're facing, and you're not. This group has proven it over and over again as well. Shelley, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'll piggyback on a lot of things that people have already said, but one of the things that I think is so true in our positions is that it can be very lonely. And you can feel like that everything kind of comes to you and you're the end. So at the beginning of putting my own professional development on the calendar, I remember thinking, I can't do this. I don't have time to do this. Now, after experiencing it, I was like, now I'm thinking I have to put this on the calendar. Like it has to be a part of who I am. It has to be a part of my leadership. It does give me collaboration that I was missing. I was missing that part of collaboration, pushing things beyond my own school and seeing others' perspective. Oftentimes I'm in a situation and I'll slow down, whereas I was really quick to react sometimes. So I'll slow down and I'll say, WWMD, what would masterminds do? And so I do that now where I'm like, wait a minute, and then I'll think about it, and then I'll go through our just process together. It's almost like I'm having our own little meeting hot seat in my head. So that collaboration has been very, very valuable to me.
Oh, Shelley, I think we just came up with the title for this show, WWMD. That's the first time anyone's ever said that. What would Mastermind do? Thank you guys for that feedback. This question you may have already been answering in your responses, but I'm just curious, in what other ways has this community of leaders challenged you or supported you or even held you accountable in the work that you've done?
I feel bad going first all the time. This
Oh,
is not
please
my
do.
normal MO. I'm normally much more of a listener. But I think this group has really challenged me to examine my own assumptions and really refine my own decision making. Being a principal in a school can feel isolating, but being in this group, sharing our experiences, asking questions, receiving encouragement really is very helpful to know that we're not alone in this. There's other people experiencing very similar things that have really important perspectives.
Wow. You said a lot in a very short way, Jessica. Examining my assumptions and refining my decision making. Because, I mean, let's just say it out loud. This is a room full of people with degrees and experience, um, both in teaching and in leadership. And you guys know that when you make that transition into the role that you're in, some of those things you're like, why do I feel like I don't know what I'm doing? Even though I've had almost a lifetime now of being in this career. And what you just said, Jessica, I think is why it's so hard, because you have to so many times back up from your assumptions and re-examine them, and then refining decision. It's the process of making the good and the hard decisions that becomes your new norm. And so and that's why leadership is such a different capacity sometimes than just simply um, teaching or instruction. Others, in what ways has this group supported, challenged, or held you accountable?
Well, I really think that when we reflect at the end, those questions that we reflect with at the end of each session,
Mm.
I think those are sometimes challenging, but also a great reminder because a lot of them are about the things that I'm doing and how I'm choosing to use my time, and it helps me remember that I do need to be present with my family. I do need to be working on my own growth. I do, spend a lot of time with my students and being present. But it seems to me from week to week, one of those is great, and the others have kind of fallen to the wayside, right? So I think that it's just always a good challenge and a good reminder of the things that are most important when we reflect each session.
Yeah, Karen, every time we do that, and I'm the one reading them, I'm challenging myself too. And so, in case listeners haven't heard those reflective statements, we just at the very end of every session, I'll say 4 reflective statements and ask you to score yourself on a scale from 1 to 5 on each, and then everybody shares the number. And there's that mutual accountability. And those statements are: 1, I have been visible with every student, every teacher, every day. 2, I have been meditating, listening to, reading, or reflecting on helpful books or lessons, and our time together counts. 3, I have been making healthy choices in my sleep, nutrition, and exercise. And 4, I have been faithful to my loved ones with my time and attention. And those statements are purposefully written to kind of cover this, both the who you are in school and out of school, and who you are as a person individually, but also as a part of a family and a community. And so it's hard for me to read those out loud without me having to stop too and go, "Oh boy, I need to be more present," or maybe I need to take some time for deeper learning, or maybe I need to make sure I reach out to somebody I love, or I'm going to go get that run in that I promised I was going to get today. So thank you for saying that, Karen. Others, how has our time together supported, challenged, or held you accountable?
I'll say for me, I feel like I have gained a lot more confidence in myself through this process. I came in still feeling kind of new to administration, and feeling like I don't really know what I'm going to have to offer to all these experienced principals, but I'm here. And along the way, somewhere, I started to feel like I did have things to offer. And people in the cohort, at times would say, "That's a great idea," or "I love that." And so, those comments like that really have boosted my confidence over the course of the program so that I now, when people come to me, I'm like, I have the skills that I need to be able to tackle this, where I didn't necessarily feel that way before.
Thanks for that, Chastity. Anybody else want to respond to that question before I ask our last question?
I will add to that. I think, as we learn about in scripture as iron sharpen iron, so one man sharpens another. I feel like the mastermind really reflects that. Chastity was talking about that almost like we all have the imposter syndrome of, are we good enough? And by the grace of God, we are. And in a way, I think there's some calling out and some calling up of, we call out ideas or maybe assumptions. I think that's what Jessica shared, that don't fit the narrative of the role and the responsibilities that we have in our service of leadership. But also, we call up and call out who the people are in this group and how they can lead well, and how they have demonstrated leadership capacity and how they will continue both in this opportunity and moving forward. And I think that's a really important thing when you're in a leadership role, especially if you're looking at like a organizational chart within the school itself. You're at the top, which means that you don't have as much peer support. And so finding ways to build that capacity for ourselves, but then to invest that in the people within our building. And we learn about that from one another because, well, the favorite phrase of these Will Parker groups is that the smartest person in the room is the room, because the collective efficacy of this group working together is what benefits that. But it takes good leaders like the ones here to show up in a way that they can invest in that, both the support of their peers and then through their own development as well.
Calling out and calling up. Thanks, Trevor. I'm going to steal those turns of phrase. So the the last question I wanted to ask you guys is, and again, I'm not looking for just one response here. I'm just curious how this collaborative work, and some of you have already said these things, but I'm curious how it has influenced the way how has it translated back into the way that you're working with your own teachers and teams or students. So I'm just curious, what does that look like for you when it comes to impacting the work you do beyond these meetings?
I think for me, my biggest takeaway has been, being a principal, I often feel like I need to have the answers to everything, but this class has really helped me to realize it's less about having the right answers and more about asking the right questions
Mhm.
to really get where you want to go. I have really tried to be intentional about telling our faculty and staff the impact that they're having based on the decisions they're making. I've seen an increased leadership in our teachers. They want to step up. They're feeling acknowledged and empowered. And it really started with asking those right questions. So I thank you for that.
Mhm. Thank you, Jessica. Others?
I think for me, it's kind of reinforced the things that sometimes get away from me that I need. The things that this meeting has given me is like the revisiting of norms every time that we meet, just reminding us of like the goals that we set for each other, modeling that to the faculty when they go in different spaces like PLCs and their PDs or whole, levels. So, and also like celebrating. I know that's the first thing that we start with all the time, and I forget there are things I'm going to celebrate this week. There are things that I want to be grateful and gratitude, but I found myself going back to my team and doing those things because of all the things that it's done for me in this space. So those things like celebrating and visiting the norms, holding to an agenda, sending things out ahead of time so people can process those things. So things that have really worked for me here and have been modeled for me here that I have intentionally, you know, taken back to my team. And hopefully they, have see that success as well.
I'm so glad you said that, Shelley. You're bringing back a memory of when I went to grad school. I remember a professor that I had who was just so incredibly well prepared. And I just remember like acknowledging, like, man, this is one of those classes where I know so far in advance what's going to happen. Things are so clear. And it was just one of those where it takes the kind of the pressure off. And I said something to her one time about it. And her response back was exactly what I should have expected, which was like, of course, I'm trying to model for you what I hope you are going to be doing when you step into leadership. And so sometimes I think sometimes as leaders, we need to be reminded that the way we like to learn, all those things you just said, understanding our norms, being invited to celebrate, having clear agendas, advance notifications of people, all those ways we like to learn are the way that we want to invite learning to happen with our people and the way we want them to have learning happening in their classrooms. It's all one big giant classroom. So I'm glad you said that, Shelley. Other thoughts? How are you seeing this translated into from this group into your own work with your schools and teams?
So, Will, I think one of the things you often say is to use the people around you. And so, one of the things that I've been putting into practice a little bit better is for my administrative assistant to say on your calendar, it says you're doing walkthroughs. So, stop what you're doing or finish up what you're doing. And,
Mhm.
it's time for you to do your walkthroughs. Because it's so easy to get um, just completely consumed with a couple of things or different situations or different people that want to monopolize your time. But to make sure you have someone to help balance out the whole day and that you get to do all the things because the kids and the teachers need that just as much as the person who's trying to take all of your attention. So using her has been a humongous success.
Yeah, what a great practical application, Karen, of taking that accountability now to the person right beside you and inviting them to hold you accountable. These are my priorities. Can you please hold me accountable for the things that I promised to do. Any other thoughts? Any other ways you've seen this translate into the way you work with your teams or teachers?
I think for me, just learning how to coach. Working with you individually when we got to, and then working with the cohort as well, I've really learned how to coach other people. And so I find myself looking at my teachers and the people in my school and being able to pick out those who have leadership potential and working with them and, just kind of taking time to look at other people as a leader and then coaching them in that way. That's something that I've kind of learned from not just the cohort, but like I said, whenever you and I have met one-on-one and I've had those coaching sessions.
It's so good to hear. Well, as we wrap up, I'm going to ask Trevor, if you don't mind, to, as someone who's helped facilitate not just this group, you and I have facilitated several groups across the Archdiocese, but you have been in every one of these meetings and you get to watch these leaders and connect with them and be in their buildings. And so I'm just really curious from your perspective, how have you seen these things translated for these leaders, and um, any other thoughts you want to add as we wrap up? And then I'll go around the room and ask each of you to just share a parting thought for anybody that's listening that's maybe thinking about whether they need to be a part of a collaborative work like this too. But Trevor, you go first.
Thanks, Will. I could not agree more. I think good leaders are naturally good learners. And we have a cohort of people in this group and some of the other groups that you lead within our diocese that model that. And I think by modeling that within themselves, they're demonstrating what they value, and then they can then invest that into those that they serve and support in a leadership role within their buildings. Because if good leaders are good learners, good leaders also lift people up. That by very nature and through our Christian witness, we've learned that is servant leadership is the form of leadership that we aspire towards, which means we're placing others before ourselves. We're trying to shepherd that flock so that we can support the growth and development of those that we serve, primarily the students. But we don't get to the students without first working with and through our teachers and building their capacity. And by having leaders within our diocese that prioritize their development, they're more capable and more equipped to go do that for their teams, for their schools, for their the leaders in their classrooms, and then the leaders in the desks that are receiving the learning. And I think ultimately what comes from that more holistically with the different groups that you offer and that you work with, getting to be a part of those, I see this coherence that our superintendent Amy Nall always talks about, which is so important, and what drives our work is the coherence between us working towards this shared vision of excellence, right? That common goal. We're on a shared mission together. That's the discipleship and the formation of our students, but also the academic excellence that we are holding that standard for. And by having so many different leaders that have the opportunity to learn and to grow individually and collectively among their peers within our system of schools, that allows us to have that, again, that coherence, that we're speaking a common language. We're using similar words. We have shared experiences through our development that now we can cast that out or allow that to sort of permeate into the different local level leadership groups that they have within their building, which I think is such a powerful thing because it gives them the autonomy to exercise leadership from a shared understanding, but then quote unquote differentiate it to the scale at their local level, which I think is such a powerful measure and such a testament to the leaders that we have that support our parish school communities.
Trevor, thank you for that summary. And as we wrap up, before I ask each of you to just share a parting thought, I want to say a big thank you to Amy Nall, superintendent, who has supported this work and helped me co-facilitate many of these groups for a long time, and your former superintendent, Mary Beth Bowling, who initiated the relationship that I have with the Archdiocese of Louisville and the Grow Academies that we do and the Masterminds we do and the in-person PD that we've done. And so, and the opportunity to visit so many of your buildings. It's just been such a wonderful relationship to come and see your campuses and to see this work that's being done collectively. Listeners to this podcast run the spectrum of experience. I have a lot of veteran leaders that have been listening to this podcast for 10 plus years now. I have a lot of new leaders. I even had a college junior reach out to me that's been listening to the show because he's going into education. So as you guys are as you're leaving this conversation, you're speaking to an audience that's kind of in all of those areas, but what's something you would want leaders to keep in mind, whatever place they are in their leadership journey? What's a thought you would want them to keep in mind about their own growth or collaboration as we say goodbye? Shelley?
Well, as I mentioned before, I was really hesitant to, find a hole in my calendar to kind of fill it with personal, professional development. But I think that at the end, I really learned that if I don't invest in myself, then I don't have the capacity to invest in others. And that really is, for me, just kind of sums it up, that I have to continue to invest in my own growth to be able to invest in other people.
Thanks for that. Chastity?
I would say take the time to learn and grow. It benefits your school, benefits your professional growth, and even your personal life. I'd say I'm the most recharged and my bucket is full after every mastermind session. So it's definitely worth getting it on your calendar, like Shelley said.
Thanks, Chastity. Jessica?
Having an opportunity to collaborate either in this masterminds group or however you're able to as a listener, it just helps you feel supported and stretched. You become a better leader and a better person.
Karen?
I would have to agree with everybody. I think that it's, giving yourself permission to spend the time that you need to spend to make yourself a better leader. And that's, what we're all striving for.
So grateful for those thoughts. And Trevor, I know I had you kind of summarize the influence, but any parting word as we wrap up?
Yeah, investment in yourself as a leader is never superfluous and it's never selfish. In fact, you owe it to the people you serve to put that oxygen mask on first so that you can help others.
Oh my goodness. Well, Principal Matters listeners, as you got to meet my friends Shelley and Trevor and Chastity and Jessica and Karen, I hope as you walk away today, and I'm just going to repeat what they just said, that you will be committed to investing in yourself, taking time to learn and grow, being supported and stretched, being willing to be recharged through the time that you have together, and recognizing it's not selfish. Because the goal of this kind of collective growth is so that you can step back into the work that you're doing and those around you and serve them with perspective and context and wisdom. So thank each of you for the opportunity to share your thoughts and your voices and your faces, for those of you that are watching this on the video version, with our listeners. And listeners, thank you for the opportunity to learn together, because what you do matters. And we'll talk to you again soon. Find free resources like this one at williamdparker.com. Subscribe for our free weekly newsletter, which contains bonus material, and also check out the links for Grow Academies, Masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations from my books, as well as from Principal Matters Associates. You can find out more under our speakers tab at williamdparker.com. Thank you for learning together, and thank you for doing what matters.
Monday Matters.